Great. Hi, y'all. Thank y'all for joining us for our Beef Brunch News Update on Tuesday, November 8th. I believe when we left off a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about getting ready for State Fair and some cold weather coming in and crossing our fingers for a little bit of rain. Lee's not with us today, but I will say in the Northwest, I guess it's been 2 Wednesdays ago now, almost the day after our last news update came, we did get some rain through the area. Temperatures have been a little bit more like fall, hitting upper 30s. I think at night we were a little cold in the State Fair barn, but State Fair did go really well. I think as far as the show goes, on cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, everything, it went well. And congratulations to all those exhibitors that placed and made it through the sale and everything in the past couple of weeks. And good luck to Jason and Rodney and all of our kids that are going on the educational trip to NAIL this week in Louisville. So I know they've been getting ready for that. Vince, I will go ahead and pass it on to you for our update in Central and South Louisiana.
Oh, thank you, Ashley, for having me. And yeah, it's good to be back home from State Fair. And fortunately, we made the trip, so we're getting ready to travel to Kentucky. So we're looking forward to that. My kids have never been, and they're looking forward to it. So we're excited about that. But as far as weather conditions, ryegrass planting, I think most of the ryegrass has been planted in our area in central part of the state. Did get comments from some people that have not planted yet, and it's getting a little late. We did get that 1 inch of rain with that front coming through 2 weeks ago. And then we had a little bit of supporting moisture, I guess, with another front that came through middle part of last week. Got a couple of 2 or 3 tenths out of that one. So in my general area, ryegrass is up. If we could get another little rain here in the short run, which there's a prediction for rain on Wednesday, Thursday, I think we'll have some ryegrass ready to top dress. So despite the increased price in fertilizer, I see some good stands out there that are coming along with need of moisture. I mean, I won't say we have ample moisture, but we have enough moisture for it to continue on. There is some hay going out to cow herds at this time. Those 40 and last night was 39 degrees here. You get those kind of temperatures above I-10. We're about 30 miles from I-10, and our summer grasses are gone. It's yellowed up, and cows are starting to search for stuff to eat. And so it's people are supplementing, and that brings to mind another issue. The increased cost of everything. Producers are searching for the best deal out there as far as supplementation, and to be honest, there's really no good deal. Most of I've been pricing some stuff for my personal use, and it's escalated by 20 and 30% in some cases. So just going to have to bite the bullet and hope for a good outcome, or make sure that you got those cull cows moved on to market to try to cushion some of that expense, that extra expense or added expense to our winter supplementation and fertilizer costs. A lot of people have been palpating cows and getting cows to the market, so hopefully we can get enough cushion there to cover those expenses. Fall calving season is well on the way. We generally have a good portion of our cattle herds in this area calve October, November, and December, where they have a good heavy marketable calf come June or July, and it's no strange issue in my particular situation. We're about calved out, probably 80%. So and a lot of the neighbors around me and people in the general area are the same way. So that's looking good, but ryegrass is a ways from being grazed, so these cattle are going to need supplementation and plenty of hay in front of them to keep them full and keep those calves moving right along before getting on winter grazing. Jason and I visited before the recording of this update today regarding some increased cost of supplementation and feed costs. I did a little research and called some contacts here down in the rice country. Rice bran has gone up exponentially here lately, but there's a couple of things driving that, and it's nothing strange to the current situation. Is freight is involved. Barge traffic is held up. A lot of this milled rice that's going to export markets are being held up on barges, not being able to make their destinations in a timely fashion. Some of the rice mills have been held up 2 and 3 days a week, not being able to mill because they have nowhere to go with milled rice. There's a higher demand for brown rice. So brown rice is simply not taking the bran off, just taking the husk off. And that's been a popular commodity, and a lot of population is maybe moving to that. or they may be just doing brown rice here locally to send to an export where they finish the product off as a polished product. So there's a number of things driving that cost of rice bran up, and it's nothing strange. Every time you turn around, we have an increase of cost, and it's mainly associated with freight and the hold up with shipping and stuff, both on the east and west coast and export markets. So also that we've had a downfall in the amount of acreage that's planted. Arkansas was considerably off, somewhere around 1 million acres off this year. In Louisiana, I talked to one of the local rice growers, and he said that Louisiana had just about 18 to 20% less acreage this year than they had in previous years. So all those things come into play with supply and demand, and rice bran has become a favorite for deer hunters. Deer love rice bran, so that's another niche in the market for the rice bran, or the millers, that they have in that market in their favor. So increase in prices is nothing new. So but that's here recently. Jason, I think, commented that USDA numbers were up like what, $75 a ton, Jason?
Yeah, so up about $55 a ton.
Oh, 55. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you on that. But still, that's considerable, from around the $125 mark to $175 mark, $180 mark. So that puts a strain. It's generally a cheap and easy feed stuff. Those that live close to the mills here in South Louisiana, where there's a lot of rice milling that goes on. So that's putting another financial strain on some of our low input feed costs. That's about all I have. It's we're going to wrap up the fall calving season here. It's time to get bulls fertility tested. Moving into our breeding season, bulls will go out generally around a month from now, December the 15th to the 20th, somewhere in there, for 60 days, 60 to 75 days, and then again back in the spring. So there's a lot of interest in people looking for replacement bulls or adding a bull to their battery right now to make sure that they got everything covered. There's a lot of bull sales going on right now, a lot of replacement female sales right now. So hopefully everybody meets their needs, but it don't seem like the prices are going down with the calf prices. So, but futures market has been favorable, and Jason will cover that in his comments. That's about all I have.
Thank you. I was looking at the Daily Voice from Farm Bureau this morning, and they were talking about the shortage of having truck drivers, which goes into what Vince was just saying about delivery. I mean, not just the exports and the barges, but even here in the continental U.S., our lack of truck drivers and how that's affecting supply of things, cost of fertilizer, and it was just all these different things. The costs are going up, costs are going up, costs are going up. No truckers, and I was like, man, this is a way to start a morning, especially a Monday morning. On that, but it is something to consider and looking forward into the future on your prices and on supplements and fertilizer and everything. Jason, I appreciate your cute decor that you have back there. Jason's sitting in my office in Alexandria. As Vince just said, they were getting ready to head to Louisville to take the kids to Nail to compete there. So Jason's in my office there, and I have to give him a hard time because he shifted his camera earlier, so you didn't see my Texas A&M stuff in the background. So Jason, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for your update.
Thank you, ma'am. It is definitely livestock show season with us. Been at the state fair the last couple of weeks and got to go sleep in my bed one night before coming down here. And as said before, we're getting everything loaded up and getting all of our ducks in a row to head out for the North American tomorrow. We'll be taking 26 head of cattle up there, so 2 steers and the rest of that's junior heifers, and 17 head of sheep. So we're excited about the number of kids up there. Just to kind of give you a little brief, I know this is not a show update, but it's something that Louisiana can be proud of, is that we've been taking kids on this trip since 1946. The only time that the trip was missed was the 2 years between whenever Chicago shut down and they started moving that show to Louisville. There was 2 years in there that it did not happen. And then we didn't get to take a full trip last year during the pandemic. So That's about the only time we've missed. But other than that, we've been taking kids on this trip. Whenever they first started in 1946, they were taking them up there by rail cars. Pretty neat stuff. If you read some of those news clippings that they found in the livestock show office, a lot of history with this trip in terms of Louisiana 4-H and FFA going up there. The rain that was talked about, Northeast kind of missed out on some of that. We didn't get near the rain that we were hoping we were going to get. Whenever that came through Shreveport, it was like a river flowing in between the barns there at the state fairgrounds. It came a really good hard rain. On sale day of all days, we were trying to get animals moved from the barns over to Hearst Coliseum. But it came a good rain there. But after visiting with folks back over in Northeast Louisiana, we didn't get near that rain. They did catch some rain, but not near what we were probably needing on some of that newly planted ryegrass. Moving into the markets, the slaughter volume fell back to 650,000 head this past week after reaching 668,000 the previous week. Cash market has broken out of the trading range that has characterized much of this year. So I was looking back, and we hovered back and forth. So if you look at the 125 line on fat cattle, we bounced back and forth around that line for 11 weeks. It just kind of got stale right there, and just didn't seem like we could get any movement. But it seems like we finally broken out of that and finally hit some $30s this past week. Beef demand is healthy. Plant processing volumes remain the wild card on whether or not we're going to continue to maintain this momentum that we've picked up on. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. The box beef market posted additional gains this week. Choice box beef closed the week at $288.64 a hundred, with a choice select spread of $21.85. So y'all have heard us talk about processor margins before. They still remain excessively high. So right now those margins are running about $600 to $700 a head. So the processors are still making money, even though we did make gains this week in live cattle. If you look at that kind of margin, the processors are still working in a positive. Fed cattle traded in the south between 128 and 130. Fed cattle traded in the north between 128 and 130. So that's a good thing that we're seeing a balance there. To average out the week in the 5-area feeding region, the Fed steer negotiated cash price was 126 to 132 on a confirmed 80,469 head. So that is down 6,682 head from the previous week. As Vince mentioned a while ago, higher futures were assisted by higher cash trade this week. Trade volumes were light to moderate, but at prices $2 to $4 better than they were last week. Futures ended the week with December trading up $1.17 at 131.80. February up $1.27 at 137.12, and April up $1.17 at $140. So that is some really good news that we're seeing in the futures. 500 to 600 pound steers, medium and large 1s and 2s, sold from 147 to 154, which was mostly steady with the previous week. 700 to 800 pound feeder steers, medium and large 1s and 2s, were mixed from 127 to 147, which is $6 lower to $8 higher than the previous week. Futures ended the week with January trading up $1.42 at 159.60, March up $1.45 at 160.77, and April up $1.40 at 163.72. Lean cull cows averaged out the week at 51 cents, which is slightly higher compared to the previous week at 49 cents. Moving into our feedstuff, soybean meal is trading up $13.30 a ton at $365.20 a ton. Soybean hulls are steady at $155. Cottonseed meal is steady at $300 a ton. Whole cotton seed is steady at $265 a ton. As we stated earlier, rice bran is up $55 a ton at $195 a ton. Corn gluten feed, that's the 60%, is up $5 at $610 a ton. DDGs are down $2.50 at $175 a ton. and corn is up 20 cents a bushel at $5.56 a bushel. And with that, Ashley, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you. So several of these things have been mentioned already, but I think Vince said, it's time. People are purchasing bulls, doing breeding soundness exams and things like that. And so that kind of leads us into the Beef Brunch events or webinars that we've got. So today, I'm sorry, we record these on Mondays and I always mess that up. But today, when this is going out on November 9th, I think I said our date wrong earlier too, to Monday. So today, November the 9th, Tuesday is our Beef Brunch webinar. So Dr. Scaglia and I are doing bull management and commercial beef operations. So he's touching a lot on the nutrition side, I'm touching a lot on the reproduction side, and then we both have some other management considerations going in there. So depending on when you hear this news update, our webinar is live at 10:30, and then of course we always record those and I get them up as soon as I can. It usually takes a week or so, sometimes longer, to get those edited and posted for y'all online. With that being said, Dr. Scaglia's webinar from October, which was planning your grazing for winter annual forages, that is online. So that's on our YouTube channel, our Beef Brunch website, lsuagcenter.com/beef brunch. In December, Dr. Hay is coming in and we're continuing some talks with bulls. Dr. Hay will be presenting selecting beef bulls for terminal crossbreeding programs. So that's going to be December 14th, and we'll remind you about that when it starts to come up. A couple of other events to mention really quick. We've discussed this before, but Dr. Scaglia also is coordinating a grass-fed beef production and marketing workshop that is Tuesday, November 16th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the mega shelter or the state evacuation shelter there at Alexandria. On the program is optimizing resources, transitioning to a grass-fed beef system, marketing your calves, strategic alliances in the grass-fed beef industry, functions for grass-fed beef producers, what they prefer for strategic alliances, how grass-fed beef attributes, what attributes are preferred by restaurants and retailers. I'm getting way too tongue-tied now. There will also be a producer panel. So you'll get to hear from different grass-fed producers about their experiences, their do's and don'ts in terms of grass-fed beef production. And then the other event that I want to go ahead and get on your calendars is our Louisiana Forage and Grasslands Council annual meeting, our annual conference. That is going to be Friday, December 3rd in Alexandria, again at the state evacuation shelter. Registration and viewing of commercial exhibits will start at 8:15, but the actual program will not start until 9. So, and it will be over at 1 p.m. There is no registration fee. If you want to join the Forage and Grasslands Council, the membership is $35 for that, but you do not have to pay membership in order to come to the event. So if you would just like to come to the event, you may do that. Topics there, review on nitrogen fertilization options for pastures, and an update on our Ag Center forage testing lab, protein supplementation and ruminant diets, bale storage, marketing your animals. Department of Ag and Forestry will come in for that. Low input sustainable beef production in the Gulf South, an NRCS update, and then if you're a member, we will have the Forage and Grasslands Council business meeting at the end of this conference. So again, that's going to be on Friday, December 3rd. Dr. Ed Twidwell is the contact for that, and I'll have all that information in our video and podcast. And then one more thing, just a reminder that we do still have the registration open for our Advanced Master Cattlemen. So I have that link and information. You can contact Dr. Scaglia if you have any questions on that. And with that, I think that wraps up our news update, and we will be back with y'all in a couple of weeks.